Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're embarking on, well, a somber but incredibly important deep dive. We're looking into a collection of sources that really eliminate a truly dark period of American history. Specifically, we'll be looking at excerpts from the book Without Sanctuary, Lynching Photography in America. It's a 2023 publication from Twin Palms Publishers and has contributions from James Allen, Hilton Als, Congressman John Lewis, and Leon F. Litwack. Our mission here really is to understand not just the grim facts, but the historical context and the disturbing role photography played in these events. Ultimately, we want to unpack what these challenging images reveal about society back then and why confronting this material is so crucial for understanding our past. It's difficult but essential for you to be well informed.
Absolutely. And this source material, it presents a really unflinching, stark look at an aspect of American history that, frankly, many might prefer to overlook. What these authors do, through their powerful essays and the images themselves, is they compel us, really force us to confront these difficult truths head on.
Okay, let's start with the foreword. It's by Congressman John Lewis. He describes the book as bringing to life one of the darkest and sickest periods in American history. That's a powerful statement. What did he mean by that exactly? And what was his personal connection to this painful history?
Well, Lewis explains that he actually grew up in rural Alabama. And he heard stories, growing up about lynchings, about the terrifying night riders. He said he found the photographs themselves unreal, even unbelievable, but crucially, they made real the hideous crimes that were committed against humanity. He also grappled with this really profound question. What is it in the human psyche that would drive a person to commit such acts of violence against their fellow citizens? His hope, he said, for Without Sanctuary was that it would inspire compassion, loving, and caring in future generations, working to prevent anything like this from ever happening again. It's clear his connection was deeply personal, bridging memory and history right there.
That's incredibly powerful and, yeah, deeply personal, as you say. So moving on, this next section, Leon F. Litwack's essay, Hellhounds, it really pulls back the curtain on the horrifying public nature of these atrocities.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through the details of the Sam Hose lynching? It's used as a stark example of this public spectacle.
Yes, the Sam Hose lynching. It's a chilling case study. April 23rd, 1899, in Newnan, Georgia, thousands of white Georgians, many from Atlanta, actually took an excursion train, a special train, just to witness the event. And the source really emphasizes this. Despite the complete lack of any formal court trial, no member of the crowd wore a mask, nor did anyone attempt to conceal the names of the perpetrators. It was completely open. Newspaper reporters were there right on the scene, noting the active participation of some of the region's most prominent citizens. And disturbingly, the white press and public, they expressed their solidarity with the outcome.
Solidarity with that outcome.
Yes. And the brutality inflicted on Sam Hose was just extreme. His ears, fingers, genitals were cut off, his face skinned, his chest gashed open. They removed his heart and liver, cut them into small pieces. His bones were crushed. And then in the crowd, they actually fought over souvenirs, pieces of his body. Finally, his body was burned down to small particles. Reporters described this whole scene with terms like unfainting satisfaction and called it the most diabolical in the annals of crime.
The level of detail. The reporter descriptions. It's just stomach churning, almost hard to grasp the brazenness of it all. And you mentioned that the investigative journalist Ida B. Wells, she documented similar findings years earlier, right, back in 1892, even using terms like colored man roasted alive and Negro barbecue.
Yeah.
What does that tell us about how deeply ingrained, how, I guess, normalized this violence really was in society at the time?
It speaks volumes about the normalization. I mean, these acts weren't just public, they were often celebrated, even intentionally documented. The source details how the use of the camera to memorialize these events became common practice. It was part of it. Imagine this scenario. 1915, a lynching in Fayetteville, Tennessee. The source says, hundreds of Kodaks clicked all morning. People arriving in automobiles and carriages, like a day out. Photographers would even set up portable printing plants right there on site to immediately produce a photograph of the lynched Negro, and then picture postcards were circulated with captions. Captions that are almost unthinkable today in their casual cruelty, like, this is the way we do them down here. Or, the last lynching has not been put on card yet. We'll put you on our regular mailing list. Expect one a month on the average.
Expect one a month on the average. Wow. The commercialization of terror. That's just a chilling phrase in itself. It speaks to a society so steeped in this racial hierarchy that violence became not just tolerated, but, well, a commodity.
Mm.
So how did this widespread public violence then intercept with the formal legal system and the broader racial dynamics of the era?
Well, the source states that from the late 19th to the early 20th century, on average, 3 Black Southerners were hanged, burned, or tortured every single week. It notes that in the 1890s, a staggering 75% of the 139 lynchings each year were of Black victims. 75%. The criminal justice system at the time, it basically operated with ruthless efficiency in upholding the absolute power of whites to command the subordination and labor of Blacks. This overwhelming display of superiority, as the source calls it, was fundamentally aimed at intimidation,
Yeah.
at controlling uppity, troublesome, ambitious, and independent-minded Black men. The cheapness of Black life, fueled by white supremacy, allowed these horrors to just continue, virtually unchecked.
3 Black Southerners, hanged, burned, or tortured every week for decades. It's a scale of terror that's almost unfathomable, and it completely reframes, our understanding of the justice system of that era. And speaking of how we perceive these events, Hilton House's essay, GWTW, that shifts our focus, right, to the psychological impact and the perception of these images. He talks about how these aggressive photos might, for some people, serve as a kind of shortcut to avoid thinking about deeper issues. Can you elaborate on that? It's a fascinating, if unsettling, insight.
Right. Els frames these pictures, quite provocatively, as documents of America's obsession with N, both black and white. He directly challenges you, the viewer, to confront your own feelings, your own reactions when looking at them. He describes the white people in the photos with words like crazy and empty-looking, tortured, and embodying this disturbing list of traits: violent, disruptive, uncooperative, lazy, stinking, loud, difficult, obnoxious, stupid, angry, prejudiced, unreasonable, shiftless, no good, a liar, fucked up. It's a very harsh description. He also points out what he saw as a kind of contradiction, noting one colored writer who viewed the images dismissively as toes Negro crap. So there are complex reactions even within the Black community.
That is a profoundly raw and emotional description. It really lays bare some uncomfortable truths about how these images were, and maybe still are, received. And Els himself raises that question: do I have a right to collect these pictures? That really speaks to the deep ethical dilemma, doesn't it, in confronting this kind of disturbing material.
It absolutely does. He observes the white euphoria you can actually see captured in some images, and he contrasts that sharply with how the Black guy is often framed, Black identified, as he puts it. Then he draws this really poignant connection to Margaret Mitchell's Gone with the Wind. He argues the movie presented this sanitized, romanticized reality that was just utterly different from the extreme suffering Black Americans endured, which these photographs show so brutally. He contrasts GWTW with Billie Holiday singing Strange Fruit, which he sees as a true, unvarnished depiction of the horror. Ultimately, I'll suggest these images compel us to feel fear and to understand that neither Black accommodation nor resignation would be enough on its own to fundamentally change the white perceptions that allowed such violence.
That contrast between Gone with the Wind and Strange Fruit is incredibly stark. Now, the notes on the plates section of WithoutSanctuary, it provides specific details about many of these lynching photographs. I think it's crucial for us to acknowledge some of these individual stories, not just to grasp the horrific scope, but to really understand the unique ways this terror manifested and, well, how it was consumed by the public. Let's maybe touch on a few that particularly reveal the depths of this period.
Okay. We could start with the lynching of Jesse Washington. This was in Waco, Texas, 1916. The photograph itself is chilling. He's shown bludgeoned, slumped in a rocking chair. His clothes are blood-splattered. And disturbingly, the source notes dark paint applied to face. It describes white racists attempting to sort of control him and mold him into a caricature, good old darky, even in death. It reflects this deep-seated desire to strip individuals of their very dignity.
That detail.
Yeah.
The addition of paint. It's particularly grotesque. A final act of dehumanizing manipulation. And then there's the Clyde Johnson lynching in Yerfie, California, 1935. What stood out there?
That one's noted for how a number of mourners apparently planned the lynching. The mob was estimated at maybe 50 people. And local officials basically said they couldn't intervene because of uncontrollable unrest. It points to a level of community complicity, or at least inaction.
Right. Official inaction justified by unrest.
What about Benny Simmons in Anadarko, Oklahoma in 1913?
Simmons was accused of murdering a 16-year-old girl. The mob lynched him from a cottonwood tree. A newspaper reported that he prayed and shrieked while pieces of his burned flesh were torn off by the crowd as souvenirs. Again, that souvenir aspect.
It's relentless. And we see the postcard theme again with Elijah Daniels' lynching in Center, Texas, 1920, this time with a handwritten message on the back. It reads, "This was made in the courtyard in Center, Texas. He killed Earl's grandma. She was Florence's mother. Give this to Bud. From Aunt Myrtle." What does this seemingly casual exchange between Aunt Myrtle and Bud tell us about the normalcy, maybe even the banality of this extreme violence in everyday life for some? It really underscores how deeply normalized and, frankly, integrated this violence was into the social fabric for some communities. This wasn't just some sensational, distant event for them. It was something to be shared and discussed within families, almost like a piece of local news or a community update. The casual tone of that message, describing a brutal lynching like that, it highlights a chilling lack of empathy, a widespread acceptance of these horrific acts. It shows just how much these events were part of the lived experience and communication for many white people at the time.
That's a staggering insight.
Yeah.
The casual cruelty. And then we have the Hodges home in Statesboro, Georgia, 1904. That's a picture of a burned house, right?
Yes, after a family of 5 was murdered and their house burned down, it shows the violence extended beyond individuals to entire families, to property, erasing presence.
And the 1878 lynching of Ketchum and Mitchell in Custer County, Nebraska. This involved cattle thieves burned alive. What's striking there is the commercial aspect again, isn't it?
Exactly. A reward was offered for their capture, sure, but then orders for viewing their bodies were available for purchase. 35 cents each, or $3 per dozen.
Viewing orders.
For sale. It pushes that commercialization even further, not just documenting, but selling access to the results of the violence. The aftermath, the victims' remains, became a commodity. It shows how profit motives could just intertwine with the violence and dehumanization, making the horror accessible, even desirable perhaps, to a wider public, a chilling precursor to the widespread postcards later.
The sheer number and variety documented. The burning of Ed Smith in Greenville, Texas.
Right.
The lynching of Thomas Shipp and Abram Smith in Marion, Indiana in 1930. That Marion case even included a framed photograph with the victim's hair and a KKK inscription attached. It just paints such a stark, unavoidable picture.
It really does. The cumulative effect is overwhelming.
So this deep dive into WithoutSanctuary, it has been powerful.
Okay.
Yes, incredibly difficult. The sources reveal this systematic nature of terror, the horrifying public spectacle of violence, the chilling complicity of communities, even the commercialization, as we've discussed. It's a stark, vital reminder of those darkest and sickest periods in American history that Congressman Lewis spoke of right at the beginning.
Absolutely. And these photographs, however horrifying they are to look at, they serve as an undeniable historical record. They're proof. They compel us, they compel you to confront the past, not as some abstract concept, but as concrete, brutal events. Events that were widely witnessed, documented, and in some segments of society even celebrated. They really challenge any desire you might have to just dismiss these things as isolated incidents or mere anecdotes. They weren't.
Right, so what does this all mean for us today? How do we process this? This material clearly demonstrates how vital critical thinking is, how important a deep dive into historical context can be, and how the raw truth of these images, however difficult, can challenge those comforting narratives we might have and push us towards a more complete, if much more uncomfortable, understanding of our past. It's really about recognizing the profound impact this history continues to have on the present.
And that really raises an important final question, I think, for you, the listener, to consider. Given the historical context and the disturbing intent behind so many of these original photographs meant to terrorize and dehumanize, how do we, as a society today, ensure that these powerful, graphic historical documents are presented and interpreted responsibly? How do we make sure we truly honor the victims and educate future generations rather than inadvertently echoing the original dehumanizing purpose behind their creation? It's really a question of remembrance, of responsibility, and the ongoing, difficult work of confronting our history with integrity.